The sound of dishes crashing echoed through the crowded restaurant. 3 burly men lunged forward, shouting and waving their arms, intent on humiliating a fragile black woman. But just 15 seconds later, all 3 were sprawled on the floor, eyes wide open in disbelief at what had just happened, because they had no idea the woman was a Navy operative trained to confront danger head-on. San Diego at night shone brilliantly, like a jewel on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. Crowds still bustled along the downtown streets, neon lights reflecting on the rain-slicked pavement, making the city shimmer even more. In the midst of that lively picture, a quiet figure walked slowly through the crowd. Maya Johnson, 31 years old, a black female Navy SEAL operative who had just returned after more than 18 months of deployment overseas. Out there, life and death were separated by a single breath. And today, for the first time in nearly 2 years, Maya could stroll down a familiar street with the mindset of an ordinary person, not a soldier, not a warrior, just a woman longing for a quiet evening. She chose a small Italian restaurant on the corner of Broadway, a place that had once been a familiar stop before every long departure. The door opened, revealing the warm atmosphere of a bustling Friday night. Maya walked in, exchanged a few quick words with the waiter, then chose a spot at the back of the room, a small table against the wall, giving her a clear view of the entire space. To anyone else, it was just a normal seat, but for Maya, it was a habit forged from years of training and combat. Always observe, always control the field of vision, never leave her back completely exposed to the door. She set her small bag beside her, slipped off her light jacket, revealing a simple yet elegant black dress. No more heavy uniforms, no more bulletproof vests, just an ordinary woman in an elegant dress. Yet in her eyes still gleamed a sharpness that could not be mistaken. Maya ordered her familiar dish, chicken parmesan with tomato sauce and mozzarella. As she waited for her food, she relaxed her body, sipping a glass of water. But despite her efforts, her professional instincts made her scan the room. Everything seemed normal, except for the 3 men sitting at the bar. They looked to be in their late 20s, dressed in suits, as if they had just come from a fancy party. Shiny watches on their wrists and polished leather shoes gave the impression of success. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't their appearance. It was their behavior. Empty beer bottles littered the counter before them. Their loud laughter filled the room, mixed with crude jokes directed at tables with young women. Maya frowned and shook her head slightly. She had met their kind before, the sort who were cowards on the battlefield, but loud and aggressive in a crowd. In the military, they called such people troublemakers who don't know when to stop. She turned back as her food was served, the fragrant aroma filling the air. As much as she wanted to enjoy it, she kept half an ear tuned and half her gaze fixed on the bar. The laughter of the 3 men grew louder, their words more vulgar. The waitstaff, mostly young women, passed by nervously, clearly harassed but unwilling to react, intimidated by the suits, the wealth and the authority the men projected. Maya cut her first bite of chicken, forcing herself to think, "This ain't a mission, this is my night." But 15 years of training and combat habits weren't so easily dismissed. Every potential threat, no matter how small, had to be noted. Vigilance had become an instinct ingrained into her very bones. Even in the safety of San Diego inside a cozy restaurant, Maya couldn't switch that instinct off. The raucous laughter from the bar grew louder and louder, shattering the cozy atmosphere of the restaurant. Diners nearby began exchanging annoyed glances. The 3 men, clearly drunk, paid no attention to the reactions around them. They wore well-fitted suits, polished leather shoes, and perfectly groomed hair, as if they had just stepped out of a lavish party. At first glance, they looked like successful businessmen, but a few overheard words were enough to expose their true nature. Arrogant, contemptuous, and dangerous when emboldened by alcohol. "Ha, look at that one over there. Damn, those legs deserve to be admired sitting here. Such a waste." The laughter of the other 2 followed. "Hey, sweetheart, bring more wine and smile a little more, will you? It's a fun night after all." The irate young waitress forced a strained smile, set the bottle down, and retreated as quickly as possible. The restaurant manager noticed the situation from afar, but he simply stood behind the counter, anxiously, checking the clock, as if waiting for his shift to end. From her corner table, Maya observed every detail. The danger signs were piling up. In the military, she had been trained to distinguish between harmless noise and real threat. And tonight, everything was tipping toward the latter. The third man, skinny but loud-mouthed, began staggering away from the bar with a glass of wine in hand, tossing crude remarks at any woman sitting alone. Some ignored him. Some frowned, but no one dared to speak up. Maya noticed the discomfort spreading throughout the restaurant, while the staff avoided the trio, afraid of proven customers who looked rich and powerful. Maya took a deep breath, telling herself, "Be patient, just watch. If it ends here, I don't need to step in." But things quickly went beyond what she had anticipated. Their attention shifted toward the young couple Maya had noticed earlier, Jaden and Brielle. The girl, barely in her 20s, kept her face lowered toward her plate, shoulders trembling. Her boyfriend tried to shield her, but it was obvious he lacked the strength to confront 3 large men. "Hey, gorgeous," the tall one bellowed, standing up and pointing directly at their table. "Don't waste your youth on that scrawny kid. Come. Here, I'll show you what a real man is." Laughter erupted, spreading across the restaurant, but no one was amused. The young woman shook her head, trembling. Her boyfriend tried to stay calm, his voice quiet but firm. "Please leave us alone. This is our private time." The words were like gasoline on fire. The tall man roared with laughter, then suddenly strode into their table. He leaned down, his face just inches from hers. His voice was raspy, thick with the stench of alcohol. "Do you know how many women would kill to have me notice them? Don't waste your golden chance, sweetheart." Terrified, the young woman turned away, clutching her boyfriend's arm. The young man trembled, but still tried to push the intruder back. "Please, that's enough. Step away." That was the moment everything crossed the line. The tall man suddenly grabbed the girl's arm and yanked her out of her chair. The chair toppled backward, crashing against the tiled floor with a sharp thud. The entire restaurant fell silent. Her boyfriend leapt up, trying to pull her back, but the difference in strength was overwhelming. The other 2 men howled with laughter, clapping and cheering him on. At a nearby table, someone opened their mouth to intervene, but froze when confronted with the trio's menacing stance. The restaurant staff scrambled to the back. Some had clearly called the police, but everyone knew the authorities would take minutes to arrive, and in this moment, every second was too long for the frightened young woman. In the chaos, her panicked eyes accidentally met the calm gaze from the corner of the room where Maya Johnson sat. The young woman's fear and silent plea reflected in those deep black eyes. And with just one look, Maya understood the time to rise had come. She set her fork down on her plate and dabbed her mouth with a napkin. Every muscle in her body tensed like a tiger, ready to strike. The Italian music faded away. The candlelight vanished. Everything around her blurred. Only one mission remained before her, to stop the 3 dangerous men before things spun completely out of control. She rose to her feet, her chair scraped, back with a harsh sound. Maya moved forward, slow, deliberate steps, but her eyes already burned with unwavering resolve. The atmosphere in the restaurant was stretched tight, like a string about to snap. Every eye was fixed on the petite black woman now standing face to face with 3 drunken, aggressive men. The room was utterly silent, broken only by the ragged breathing of the young girl, Brielle, whose arm was still pinned in a brutal grip. The skinny man had just swung his hand forward, about to shove Maya hard on the shoulder, his mouth twisted in a mocking grin. But at that very instant, Maya's voice rang out calm yet sharp as ice. "Stop. This is your final warning." Her tone wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise like an arrow. It was not a plea nor a request. It was an order delivered by someone who had faced countless life-and-death moments. The skinny man froze for a split second, startled by the confidence radiating from such a small woman. Then he burst into shrill laughter. "Oh, that sounded serious. What are you going to do, sweetheart? Call the manager or the cops?" The other 2 roared with mocking laughter. The tall man tightened his grip on Brielle's arm, forcing a cry of pain from her lips. "Listen, little lady," he growled. "This ain't your business. Sit down and stay out of it, or you'll regret it." Maya didn't flinch. She stood rooted, her eyes sharp as blades locked onto the tall man. Something in that look made him falter, a fleeting sense that he was staring at something, far more dangerous than the delicate figure before him. Maya inhaled slowly, evenly, keeping her heartbeat steady. In her mind, she was already calculating every scenario, every potential reaction, every angle in the cramped space. It was the instinct of a special operator, a skill that never faded, whether on a battlefield or in the glow of an Italian restaurant. "Let her go," Maya said again, each word crystal clear. "This is your last chance to walk out of here unharmed." The diners shuddered. Her tone carried the weight of a judge handing down a sentence. The girl's tearful eyes clung desperately to Maya's words. Jaden, trembling, felt a strange surge of courage radiating from the woman standing there. But the three men only laughed harder, mocking the warning as if it were a joke. "Who does that little chick think she is? This is men's business. Stay out of it, or you'll regret it." He then turned, raking his eyes over Maya from head to toe, his lips curled in contempt. "And you better sit back down. We don't want to hurt a weak little woman." Nobody in the restaurant knew that with those words he had just lit the fuse to a storm. Maya didn't move, but inside, every sense was heightened. Her stance shifted just slightly enough to brace for anything. She knew at the first wrong move from them, she would unleash everything she had, and that moment was coming. The skinny man, impatient, spat a curse and thrust his hand toward Maya's shoulder, shoving hard in an attempt to knock her back. It was a fatal mistake. In that split second, Maya had all the confirmation she needed. To her, this was no longer a threat, but an attack, and under the rules of defense, she was fully justified to respond. The restaurant held its breath. Diners sat frozen. Staff huddled behind the counter, eyes wide as they waited. No one knew what was about to happen, but everyone felt it. A storm was about to break. Maya lowered her stance, a cold glint flashing in her eyes. Her body shifted into combat mode. No wasted movement, no hesitation. The room was so silent, the ticking of the clock could be heard. And then the skinny man's hand landed on Maya's shoulder. That was the moment the boundary shattered. In an instant, 15 years of training and combat experience surged through her like instinct. Maya's body moved before her mind could even form a command. With lightning speed, she pivoted, seized her opponent's wrist, and twisted sharply. The force of his own body turned against him, producing a chilling crack. Before he could utter a sound, his face was slammed against the tiled floor, his body immobilized. The takedown happened so fast that diners hadn't even registered what occurred. A second earlier, the man had been laughing obnoxiously. A second later, he was sprawled on the floor, gasping for air. The tall man was stunned. He released Brielle instantly, spinning around and growling like a beast. He charged, fists swinging wildly. His drunken rage fueling speed but not precision. To an ordinary person, it could have been dangerous. But to Maya, each blow was slow, sloppy, full of openings. She leaned right, letting the first punch miss. By a hair. At the same time, her left hand snapped up, striking the nerve cluster at the base of his neck, a target she had drilled thousands of times in close-quarters combat training. The result was immediate. The giant froze, his legs buckling. He staggered, then crashed into a nearby table, glasses and porcelain plates shattered, food splattering everywhere. The last one, the stocky man with shifty eyes, suddenly realized the tide had turned. Seeing his two companions down, survival instinct took over. He spun and bolted for the door. But Maya was ready. 2 quick steps put her squarely in his path. In desperation, he tried to shove her aside to break free. But with a simple hip turn, Maya redirected his momentum, letting his own force betray him. He stumbled violently, crashing to the floor near the entrance. He slid 1/2 meter across, the tiles before collapsing, like a fighter thrown from the ring. It was over, and the clock had ticked only 15 seconds. The restaurant was dead silent. Then, the tall man suddenly lurched to his feet, his face flushed, not only with alcohol but also with humiliation. He jabbed a finger at Maya, growling, She's crazy! We were just talking and she attacked us." His companions quickly joined in. "That's right, we didn't do nothing. She just snapped, came at us like a maniac, twisted my arm. I think it's broken. The stocky one clutched his chest and added, "We were just having some fun. She's the one who started it. Someone call the cops. This woman is dangerous." Their blatant lies left some in momentary shock, but wasn't society full of such attempts to turn victims into perpetrators? Maya remained still. She didn't react, didn't defend herself. Her dark eyes rested calmly on the three shouting men. She knew the truth would speak for itself. And right then a firm voice rose from the corner. An elderly man with silver hair, thin but with piercing eyes, rose from his seat. He tapped his cane sharply against the floor. "Enough. I saw everything. You three were drunk, harassing women, dragging that young lady out of her chair. This woman only intervened when you refused to let go. Stop twisting the truth." His words rang like a bell shattering the cloud of doubt. Several diners immediately nodded in agreement. "That's right. I saw it all. You terrified my daughter so much she was afraid to go to the restroom. If it weren't for this woman, I don't know what would have happened." The room erupted in murmurs. The young couple, Jaden and Brielle, now stepped forward, trembling. Jaden gathered his courage and said loudly, "She saved us. If it weren't for her, my girlfriend would have been dragged away. We begged you to stop again and again, but you wouldn't. She only protected us." Brielle lifted her arm where red marks still showed from the grip. "This is proof. He grabbed me, hurt me this badly, and now you dare say you were just talking?" The murmurs turned into open condemnation. Several people raised their phones. "I recorded everything." The restaurant cameras did too. The three men paled, their arrogance dissolved into panic. "You don't understand. She knows martial arts or something. She took us down with just one move. She's dangerous. If we don't report her, who knows what she'll do next?" The weak excuse only fueled more outrage. A round of applause broke out. The truth was asserting itself stronger than any false accusation. Maya stayed silent. She didn't need to argue. She knew every witness's words, every recording. On phones or the restaurant's cameras would prove everything. The restaurant manager, now regaining composure, nodded firmly. "That's right. My staff and I witnessed it all. These three disrupted the entire evening, harassing multiple tables. We were about to ask them to leave when this happened. This woman only defended herself and protected our customers. When the police arrive, I will testify." Then came the wail of a siren in the distance. The law was about to arrive. The wail of sirens grew louder outside. Moments later, the door swung open, and three police officers entered. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, a veteran with over 15 years in the force, swept her sharp eyes across the scene. "What happened here?" she asked. Immediately, the tall man scrambled up, shouting, "Her! She attacked us! We were just talking and she went crazy on us." The officers took notes, but Maria didn't rush to judgment. Experience taught her, the louder the denial, the quicker the blame shifting, the guiltier the party often was. She turned to Maya. The woman stood tall, face composed, eyes unwavering. Maya's account was concise and steady in stark contrast to the men's frantic shouting. These three men were intoxicated and harassed multiple women in the restaurant. When they dragged a young woman from her seat and refused to let her go, I stepped in and asked them to stop. One of them then put his hand on me, intending to push me. I used the minimum necessary force to stop them and protect those around me. Witnesses corroborated her story, and video footage from diners' phones and the restaurant's cameras became ironclad evidence. Maria closed her tablet, her voice firm. "You three are under arrest for assault, harassment, and disturbing the peace." The clink of handcuffs echoed. The men's cries were drowned beneath the cold stares of the crowd. Diners applauded as the men were led out. Maria turned back to Maya, studying her carefully before nodding with respect. "You stayed remarkably calm. In 15 years, I've rarely seen anyone handle a situation like that. Have you had formal training?" Maya gave a faint smile and answered simply, "I have some background." The incident did not end when the three men were handcuffed and taken away. That very night, the clips began circulating online with sensational headlines. "Tiny woman takes down three men. In 15 seconds, the heroine of the Italian restaurant." The video set social media on fire, turning the three men into a national laughing stock Meanwhile, Maya became an unintentional public figure. National news outlets picked up the story. Martial arts experts and former military personnel were invited to analyze the footage. One retired Marine commented live on television, "This ain't ordinary self-defense. That's the skill set of a special operator. I'd bet anything she's been trained at the highest level." The name Maya Johnson began to surface, and soon it was circulating across forums. The base news had already reached her chain of command. Colonel Robert Hayes, her direct superior, called her into his office. "Johnson, you know, we always advise our operators to keep a low profile off duty, but this is out of control. The whole country is talking about you." Maya's actions had gone far beyond her intentions. They became a catalyst for widespread positive change. Young women across the country were researching military enlistment, inspired by Maya's story. Martial arts centers and self-defense classes reported a surge in enrollments. Maya's quiet act of courage had ignited a wave of positivity across the nation.